Next up is April Ferguson. And we have Don Hugh, Stacy Schmeckel.
I am a mother of a severely developmentally disabled child on a special needs bus. Because we have young children here, I'm going to have to, I'm not exactly sure how to say this where sexual misconduct happened for several months, if not the majority of an entire school year. My son cannot speak, and he often repeats what he sees and has a mentality that makes him extremely vulnerable to repeating inappropriate acts, and for him, he would not be able to process that they are not okay. In 2015, my son started acting out inappropriate behaviors, which we believed were possibly part of the autism, and have been trying to discourage. After reading the police reports, I now have no doubt where these behaviors were learned. On the school bus, the following, I'm not going to be able to tell the acts, but the acts that were committed on the bus were so significant where the police referred to it as the audio tapes and they referred to the tapes as child pornography. And I'm not sure how many of you guys have actually pulled the police reports, but I would suggest you pull the police reports to see the details of what happened on the bus. This was reported to have been happening from October of 2014 to May of 2015. Parents found out in 2015, several months after the school district knew. Parents have not been kept informed. We have been told that misconduct happened, but it was minimized when we were told it did not affect our children. And yet we know from the police reports that children witnessed at the least these acts, and we also know that the tapes viewed do not go back far enough to cover the possible exposure. I know that several times last year my son was placed back further in the bus, and the suspect was in charge of getting him buckled up, which is a concern to me. As a parent, I demand an explanation for the lack of care of my child and others, and I demand answers to know how the school can justify telling us nothing of any significance to help us help our own children. I, as a daycare owner, was required to report any possible injury, both psychologically and physically, to my clients, and was to do so without reporting the names of the children involved. The school could have disclosed what the injuries were without sharing anything confidential. I, as a parent of a child with special needs who cannot speak, had a right to know that my son was at the very least exposed to sexual conduct that could cause psychological damage to his healthy development. The negligence on the bus that my son was on is unexcusable, and further, the negligence of the school district in informing parents about the exposure their children had to child pornography is inexcusable. I, as a parent, ask that going further that monitors are on all special needs bus and that policy reviewed to make sure that parents going forward are informed of physical and psychological exposures their children have to indecent conduct. I believe as parents we have been ignored and that we deserve a meeting to be called and have our questions and concerns answered and addressed ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.